So my talk will be about cochlear implants and a bit more on the technical side. So without further ado, I'll jump into it. For those who do not have cochlear implant background, so cochlear implants are electronic devices which can be implanted and restore partially the sense of hearing in people with severe to profound sensory neural, meaning damaged hair loss. So these devices has two parts, one external and one internal. I don't know if I can point to them. Well, no. So the microphone captures the sound, the acoustic sound, and the audio processor converts the acoustic signal into electrical pulses. And how does this happen? I will come back to it in a second. But these electrical pulses are sent through the coil and the receiver, which is shown here as implant, to the electrode array. Here we see in the cochlea, which are positioned through in the surgery in the cochlea. So these arrays depends on the manufacturer, has around 20 electrodes, and these electrical pulses innervate the cochlea, and the signal will be sent through the auditory nerve to the cortex, which will be perceived as sound. So back to the process of converting the acoustic signal into the electrical pulses, this happens through the sound coding strategy, CI sound coding strategy. Here we see the block diagram of one of the currently the biggest companies called Oticon Medical, and the CI sound coding strategy is called here Crystalis XDP. So the audio is captured through the microphone, is digitized, and well, the level is RMS analysis, the level is estimated, and then through the filter bank, the signal, the acoustic signal is converted into the frequency domain. And after that, we have this noise reduction algorithm and the so-called N of M channel selection, so which defines instead of having all 20 electrodes, for example, to be active, N out of these 20 to be active in each frame. And after that, we have another level estimation, which will, the output of that will be fed into the backend compressor, which in this CI sound coding strategy is called auto voice guard. So the output of this compression system will be to this block, which generates the pulses, and the pattern of these electrical pulses is called electrodogram. One thing I would like to mention that this compression system, this backend compression system called auto voice guard, I will refer to that auto voice guard from now on, is optimized for speech in quiet, more precisely, speech when there is no background instrument is present. Now I would like to give the motivation of this study, which actually, so we know that cochlear implants convey poorly the pitch and timbre information. And as Dr. Baskand said in her talk, even if this information are conveyed due to poor spatial specificity of electrical stimulation in the cochlea, this information are not perceived by CI users. And in addition to that, there is also limitations in the dynamic range that can be conveyed through electrical stimulation in the auditory nerve, in the cochlea. But we know that CI users enjoy music, and our group has organized a music concert specifically for CI users and also for normal hearing users in Hanover, Music 3.0. We see here a picture of actually that concert. And if you're more interested about more details, you can visit this website. That CI users enjoy music. But however, previous research has shown that CI users enjoy music significantly better when the vocals are enhanced with respect to the background instrument. Many studies have shown that. But the question is how we apply this enhancement on the vocal. So one of the methods that has been used is the front-end algorithm, for example, source separation algorithm, to which they, as input, have a mixture. And here we see the source separation algorithm, and the output of the source separation algorithm are the tracks within the mixture. And after that, we can apply the desired gain, for example, to the vocals, and then some remix again and present that to the cochlear implant or cochlear implant users. So different method has been used as a real-time reference. Multi-layer perceptron has been used to apply this enhancement on the vocals, or also the state-of-the-art algorithms such as deep convolutional autoencoders, which also increases the complexity. But these algorithms has limitations, such as high computation demands, and which leads also to reduce battery life, and also the latency caused by these deep neural networks. So in this study, we were looking how we can optimize the sound coding strategy, which I presented before, which has these benefits that can have like a clinical implication and can be implemented immediately, and is less complex than the front-end algorithms. So in this work, we specifically wanted to optimize the sound coding strategy to first enhance the vocals with respect to the background instruments using the noise reduction algorithm and the N-of-M channel selection. And second, to optimize the dynamic range of the music in this block backend compression, having the music, singing music as an input, not having the speech in quiet as input. So here now I would like to give an overview of this, the last block on this figure, auto voice guard, which is a backend compression. How exactly this works, if we take a look at the figure on the right side. So first, I would like to introduce you these two levels, which are called C and T levels. So the T level is the level, the threshold level of hearing. So if we decrease the electrical pulse, the cochlear implant users won't perceive any sound anymore. So that's the threshold of hearing. And the C level is the most comfortable level that we can stimulate cochlear implant, the cochlea, and anything above that would be painful for CI users. And the ratio between these is considered as the electrical dynamic range of a subject, which is obviously subject dependent, dependent on the C and T level. Here we see on the horizontal axis, the input level, which goes in this case from 23, depends on the manufacturer, goes from 23 to 93 dB. So what we do here in this compression system, that we map an interval of 70 dB to an interval subject dependent, but mostly around 10 dB. So we are highly compressive. And this can be also seen as a mapping function also. So we are mapping 70 dB to something around 10 dB subject dependent. So this compression system called auto voice guard is a multi-band compressor which has 4 bands. And this has been designed and optimized having speech in quiet, speech without background noise as input to the sound coding strategy. Here we see the 4 bands and the corresponding knee points for each band. And this also has 3 different sound scenarios. So soft scenario, medium scenario, and loud scenario, which is adaptive backend compressor, which adapts the knee points based on the RMS input of the sound coding, the sound processor. So as I said, this has been optimized for a speech without background noise, not for music. So we wanted to optimize this backend compressor for music. So to do so, we have to first characterize the difference between music and speech without background noise. In this figure, which is from Kirschberger et al. In 2016, if we take a look at the blue line, which indicates the dynamic range of speech, and the other lines indicates the dynamic range of music in different genres. So if we take a look, take one of these lines, let's say the line with hexagram in the middle, which indicates the dynamic range of pop music, we see the dynamic range of recorded pop music is around 50% less than dynamic range of the speech. So, so as I said, the most recorded music has a lower dynamic range than speech, indeed. And also, in addition to that, in general, single music has a higher average intensity level than speech. And again, the auto voice guard is optimized for speech in quiet, not for music. So that motivates us to optimize and design a new voice guard The clinical is called auto voice guard. The newly designed voice backend compressor, we call it music voice guard. We have used a histogram analysis for 4 different frequency bands, and we have used a data set called MusDB to characterize the music, the recorded music of this data set. And having this histogram, we have used 2 criterion, 10% and 99% as a lower and upper knee point criterion. Here in this, on the left side, we see one of the bands. So we use 2 knee point system, which divides the interval to 2 intervals, and the section in the middle, which we see here with the orange line, is the less compressive, and we expect the target, in this case, the music, singing music, to fall into this area. The table shows the new designed, the knee points of the newly designed music voice guard. Now, I would like to talk about the parameterization that we have defined and used in this study. So we have defined 5 parameterization. The first one is our baseline. We see here, which is one of the mostly used clinical parameterization for CI users. So mostly they have the noise reduction algorithm set to soft, the N of M set 8 out of 20, and the backend compressor is the clinical one, auto voice guard. The second, we wanted to investigate the effect of reducing the number of selected band for stimulation. We call it 6 out of 20. This parameterization, the second one, differs from the first one, in which that we just decrease the number of selected bands from 8 to 6. Anything else is the same. The third parameterization is called noise reduction algorithm medium, differs from the baseline, in which that we have strengthened the noise reduction algorithm by 1 step from soft to medium. The fourth is differs from the baseline, in which that we have used our newly designed music voice guard as a backend compressor. And the last parameterization is the combination of all previously mentioned algorithms and changes. So now I would like to talk about objective instrumental measures we have used in this study. The first one is the vocals to instrument ratio acoustically, which is we see as on the right side the first equation, which is the energy of the vocals divided by energy of the instrument in logarithmic scale in dB. And the second objective instrumental measure that we have introduced in this study is called vocals to instrument ratio, short VIR, electrically, which is based on the signal, electrical signal to noise ratio of from used in Noguera et al. In 2016, which we see here is defined as the energy of the vocals of the electrodograms, which again is the pattern of the electrical pulses, divided by the energy of the electrodograms of the instrument. That's also again in logarithmic scale. And to characterize the dynamic range, we use this commonly used analysis called percentile analysis. And now I would like to talk about the perceptual evaluation that we had in this study. We had 3 perceptual evaluation. The first one was speech understanding using the OLSA test, but we have adopted the OLSA test for music, in which we have used as a stimuli the OLSA sentence, but we substituted the background noise with background instruments as an interferer to somehow mimic the vocal understanding in music, not speech understanding in noise. As a second test, we have used a variation of melodic contour identification, which you can see here 3 figures. So the subject first did 3 rounds of training where they received the feedback, as you can see, is correct or wrong. And after the training, they started the test where they received no feedback. And as you can see, is a variation because we use 3 notes, 5 possible contours: ascending, descending, flat, ascending, descending, and descending, ascending. And as a stimuli, we have created song speech corpus where a trained singer sang monosyllabic words from E flat 3 to F4, which I think it's in frequency domain is around from 150 hertz to 350 hertz in one semitone spacing. And as interferer, here we use background instruments again. So I have some examples here to make it a bit interesting. Hope it works.
Mouse, mouse, mouse.
Here, yeah, you see we use the song speech corpus because we wanted to assess if the CI users can perceive the melody conveyed by a singing voice. That's why we use this song speech corpus. And so we had this test in different condition. In the condition that you just heard was, we call it single word. It has been also previously in research as single word. And then we had also the condition which is called multiple words, where each note is a different word. Here you can hear an example.
Eis, Kleid, Bau.
This test has been also done with and without background instrument. So we repeated this test once without background instrument and also once with background instrument. And finally, we used a music appreciation questionnaire to assess the music enjoyment and the clarity of the singing voice. So I would like here to introduce you the results of objective instrumental measures. On the left side, we see the results of reducing the number of selected bands from 6 to 8. The vertical axis is VIR electrically, VIR electric, and on the horizontal axis, we see VIR acoustic. And as we can see here, reducing the number of selected bands from 10 to 6 increases the vocals to instrument ratio electrically, meaning emphasizes vocals electrically. And on the panel B on the right side shows the effects of noise reduction algorithm, so 4 different settings of soft, medium, and strong on the vocals to instrument ratios. Horizontal axis the same, vertical axis the same, VIR electric. What we see here, strengthening the noise reduction algorithm increases the, I saw the ping pong sign, strengthening the noise reduction algorithm emphasizes the vocal, meaning enhances the vocals to instrument ratio electrically. Here we see the results of the percentile analysis. On the left side, we see the currently clinical backend compression called auto voice guard. And on the right side, the newly designed music voice guard. The lines indicate, the red line indicates the 99th percentile, and the black line indicates 33th percentiles, and the area in between is considered as a dynamic range. As we can see that dynamic range is increased having music as input of the sound coding strategy using the newly designed backend compression system. Here, I would like to introduce you the results of the perceptual evaluation, the first experiment, results of speech understanding using also and having background instrument as an interferer. Vertical axis is a speech reception threshold, so the lower this number, the better. And horizontal axis, we see the parameterization we had in this test. Baseline 6 out of 20, and noise reduction algorithm set to medium, music voice guard, and the combination. What we observe here that reducing the number of selected bands and the newly designed music voice guard statistically improve the speech reception threshold, both by around 1.5 dB. Here we see the results of the melodic contour identification, vertical axis score, so the higher the better. The horizontal axis the same. What we observed here, there were no statistically significant difference between the parameterization. The left figure, the panel A, shows the results of having 2 semitone spacing, single word, and no background instrument. The right panel is the same, but with background instrument. But what we here observe that having background instruments statistically worsened the results in comparison with having no background instrument. The next slide is the same test, but having multiple words instead of having single word. And what we see here is that there's, again, no statistically significant difference between the parameterization, but what we see, having multiple words instead of single words, statistically worsen the results of the MCI performance of CI users. So here we see the results of the questionnaires. I'm running out of time, so I accelerate. What we see here, the first question was, how clear is the singing voice? No statistically significant difference between the parameterization. But the second question, how is your overall music enjoyment? We observed that music voice cards statistically improved the overall music enjoyment of CI users. And so to conclude, we introduced the new objective instrumental measures, and we observed reducing the number of selected bands and strengthening the noise reduction algorithm increases the vocal to instrument ratio electrically. And we used the new perceptual evaluation, and we observed that we used the speech understanding also test with background instrument as a first step to assess the vocals understanding in music. And then we saw that MCI performance of CI users significantly was poorer, having multiple words instead of single words, and also having the background instrument with respect to the condition without background instrument. Also, another point that is not mentioned here, that reducing the number of semitones from 4 to 2 semitones between the notes also significantly worsened the results of the MCI performance of the CI users. And finally, we defined 5 parameterization. We tested that in CI users, and we observed that reducing the number of selected bands from 8 to 6 statistically improved the speech perception in background instruments. And we observed that the new music voice card also improved the speech understanding in music, and there is the questionnaires provided by CI users. And finally, I would like to thank Oticon Medical for providing us the simulation change that we could perform this study, and also the founders of this study. And I would like to point that we are currently initiating another music concert for CI, specifically for CI users and also normal hearing users. So hopefully see you soon there in the concert. Thank you for your attention.